Welcome to the Ghost Stories YouTube channel. Here, we will bring you the scariest experiences through ghost stories, mysteries, and inexplicable mysteries of the mysterious world. Whether you are someone who enjoys learning about ghost stories or simply looking for a new entertainment experience, our channel will be the ideal destination. Join us in the horror space and get ready for the most tense and scary moments. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you for joining the Ghost Stories YouTube channel, and now, get ready for some spooky moments with us. The Dead Spell. Chapter 4. I opened the door and walked towards my room. My mother was sleeping there, at least like that. Another clap of thunder rang out, and bright lightning flashed into the hallway. I saw a figure standing in a dark corner. Sure, I swear there was someone standing there. I cried as I pushed the door open and ran into the bedroom screaming, "Mom, Mom, there's a ghost, there's a ghost." I jumped up on the bunk bed and called out again. Strangely, my mother wasn't there. What movement? I'm scared, very scared. Why isn't my mother doing anything? Mommy. I called, my voice echoing in the darkness. Mommy. I called and shook. My mother said nothing, as if she was sleeping very deeply. I slid my hand under the pillow, flipped open my cell phone, and turned on the flashlight to shine on my mother. I'm partly afraid of ghosts, but I'm worried that the ghost has harmed my mother more. After shining the light, I fainted. Lying on the bed with me was not my mother, who had a gentle and familiar face, but an old face with jet black hair, eye sockets without eye sockets that were bleeding, the corner of her mouth curled up into a cruel smile, whispering, "Hello. Are you awake?" Suddenly you fell asleep and kept calling me without waking up, making me so scared. My mother sat on the head of the bed with panicked eyes. "I'm planning on calling your brother to take you to the hospital." I looked at my mother. My mother is still the same, still has a gentle face, not that cruel old face without irises. Looking at my mother, I burst into tears again, sobbing and recounting what happened last night. After saying that, I vaguely thought back, wondering if what happened last night was a dream or real. How could my mother be her? I trembled and hugged my shoulders. My mother had tears in her eyes while stroking my hair, gently saying, "Poor child, you must have had a nightmare again. Well, when we wake up, what should we eat? Let's call a car to take us back to Bakjong and call your Aunt Sol to ask. I don't understand what kind of karma he did that now haunts me like that." My mother shook her head. Mrs. B's mixed calling in Bakjong is quite famous. At 10 a.m., when we arrived at Dong village in a small district in Bakjong, we saw many people lining up waiting for their turn. Her 3-room tiled house is quite shabby, with the only investment being in the main electricity area where Mrs. B practices her calling. Mrs. B is about 4 to 50 years old, looks very rustic but wears a gold bracelet and large gold earrings. I widened my eyes and witnessed several ghosts entering Mrs. B. Some ghosts of children or red children raised very scary, high-pitched voices. Some ghosts had a bloated stomach before passing away. When they entered Ms. B's body, their stomachs were bloated. When the death left, the stomach deflated. It was truly miraculous. My mother paid a 50K ceremony, then wrote my aunt's name and burial place on a piece of paper and gave it to Mrs. B. First, Mrs. B read a series of deaths, then the death that came first went first. My mother and I sat and watched dozens of ghosts return to the family. Each ghost took about 5 to 10 minutes depending on how much the ghost said. Tired of waiting since 10 a.m., Mrs. B went on vacation at noon, and at 2 a.m., when the people who were with me were satisfied with meeting their family members, a new wave of people came forward to register to call the dead, and then my mother asked, "Mrs. B, will Nguyen Tidyu's death, who was buried in Yen Kai, not come back?" Mrs. B looked up at us, her eyes somewhat strange. She glanced straight at me again and smacked her lips. "Miss Dew isn't down there, so how can I call?" My mother and I shivered. If the dead person is not down there, hell, then where are they? I don't understand why you say that. My mother immediately asked. God's plans cannot be revealed, karma, karma. Mrs. Beach shook her head again, waved her hand and sent us home. Sister, please be a blessing and help our family. My mother had tears in her eyes and started to cry. Oh dear, I told you I couldn't help you. Not even the gods can help her. Mrs. Beach suddenly pointed straight at me. She must suffer very heavy karma. My body became cold. What have I done to be guilty? Why do I have to suffer karma? Is it because I am the heir to my aunt's property that I must bear her karma? My mother and I pulled each other out into the yard. I'm dumbfounded. Church, but my mother walked away crying. By this time, I no longer had the attitude of not believing in gods or ghosts anymore. There are ghosts, there are definitely ghosts in this world. There was a middle-aged woman who saw that we were suffering and ran to ask. After hearing my mother's story, she said, if you can't call her up, then call someone else in the family, maybe we can reveal something. What? My mother seemed to wake up and went back to get a pen and paper to call my grandfather up. Dad calls daughter new. Da's deep voice rang out. My mother clasped her hands as she walked in and sat next to Medium B, who was possessed by my grandfather's spirit. I also folded my hands and sat next to him. Thank you for taking the time to watch Ghost Stories video. Hopefully the content has brought you interesting and meaningful moments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Ghost Stories YouTube channel to follow the channel's next videos. See you in the next video. Have a good day.